Get questions about why we haven't seen Vegeta's brother Tarble truly featured in Dragon Ball Super. He's been mentioned, but that's been about it. I believe that was during the Battle of Gods or Revival of F arc. I can't quite remember. One of those two. Either way, Vegeta's brother Tarble is said to be extremely weak and possesses no real strength, especially in comparison to his brother Vegeta. So it'll be interesting to consider how Dragon Ball would actually be if Vegeta's brother Tarble was actually featured alongside Vegeta from the very beginning to where we are now. And that's kind of where this story is going to take place. So again, we know Vegeta and Tarble both related, and Tarble has always been significantly weaker than that of Vegeta. Now, we don't really know exactly how their relationship was growing up, with obviously Vegeta being the older brother, but we can assume Vegeta really didn't have too much of a holler for his younger brother. If anything, he would maybe defend his younger brother in extreme circumstances if Tarble was actually threatened by some outside force. But other than that, it doesn't seem like Vegeta really cared or was really invested in Tarble's growth, development, or anything in regards to his life. So I believe it's safe to say that Tarble has probably always lived in the shadow of his older and stronger brother Vegeta. And as we transition into the first part of the story, which would obviously begin during Dragon Ball Z, a lot of people probably have figured out that Tarble was essentially a character that was never going to really be used, hence why they created Kabe from Universe 6, because you can kind of see that brother relationship there between Vegeta and Kabe. Kabe obviously being much younger, smaller, and he actually resembles Tarble in appearance as well. So that's kind of the way they manifested that relationship between Vegeta and his actual brother, but instead they actually introduced a Saiyan that would actually have some sort of role and significance in Dragon Ball Super during the Universe 6 versus Universe 7 tournament, as well as the Tournament of Power. It's kind of the way they're saying, okay, we're not actually going to use Vegeta's brother Tarble, so we're going to give you Kabe. That should be close enough and be satisfied with it, unfortunately. Personality-wise, Tarble obviously is a polite and gentle Saiyan, but he lacks the initiative to fight, and obviously he lacks the natural aggression of a pure-blooded Saiyan like that of his brother Vegeta. This obviously forces his father, King Vegeta, to banish Tarble away from planet Vegeta to a remote planet. Now, despite their estrangement, Tarble does actually get along quite well with his older brother. Well, at least in Tarble's eyes, he thinks very highly of Vegeta, and he praises him and mistakes his belief that it was Vegeta who defeated Lord Frieza. Tarble seems to have some sort of a decent relationship with his sister-in-law and new nephew, and he had no problem having Trunks fight two foes, he said, that were stronger than Frieza. And even though he's expressed concern for Trunks' well-being, Tarble still has a very loving relationship with those around him, especially his wife, who is, well, of course, an alien, which most of us know about that kind of off-branded episode. And since his childhood, he proudly introduces his wife to Vegeta, who is obviously a little bit surprised at the choice of a partnership that his younger brother Tarble has chosen. So that's just a little bit of the basic personality. Now we're going to tap into the background and a little bit deeper around Planet Vegeta's destruction. Now, considering that Tarble was indeed of royal blood, he was still technically considered to be a low-class Saiyan warrior because he lacked that natural aggression and he lacked those fighting skills that would have classified him as a higher class of Saiyan warrior lineage like that, obviously, of his brother Vegeta. Tarble did not have that same aggression, he didn't have the same combat experience, the same combat skills, hence why he was technically classified as a low-class Saiyan and banished away from planet Vegeta by his own father, King Vegeta. So now with all that out of the window, we're actually going to tap into a story of Tarble actually demonstrating and showcasing his strength. And this begins 2 years after Kid Buu was defeated by Goku and Goku's Spirit Bomb. Now, something very important happens next, as Mr. Satan is being questioned about the defeat of Buu. Two quote-unquote attack balls land on Earth, while the Z fighters and everyone are eating and having a good time. Now, obviously, Piccolo and Gohan are the first to notice these two mysterious attack balls that have landed. Then 18 notices, then Krillin, and eventually everyone stops eating because the atmosphere has obviously become very intense. They're wondering who or what is this? Who has landed on our planet? What do they want? Are they going to want to fight? Are they here for anything else? so on and so forth. So then a sharp-eyed Saiyan and a small alien emerge from the two spaceships. So this goes a little bit differently than what the Z Fighters and crew were expecting. Now, using his scouter to detect higher battle powers, the Saiyan soon arrives at the party. Upon seeing Vegeta, the Saiyans call him, quote, Big Brother, or the Saiyan calls him Big Brother. The Z Fighters are all shocked by this sudden truth. This Saiyan introduces himself as Tarble, Vegeta's brother, as well as introducing his wife. Vegeta says that Tarble had been sent off to a remote planet because he had no talent for battle. Tarble begs our heroes to defeat Abo and Kato, who have ravished his planet and pursued him to Earth. Now, for a little bit of background information, Abo and Kato essentially are two henchmen of Frieza that went to Tarble's planet and started causing chaos and destruction. It's really all you need to know. So as we come back here to present day when Tarble and his wife are here on Earth talking to Vegeta, Goku says that if Abo and Kato are strong, he will fight them. Tarble then measures Goku's battle power with his scouter and says that he will be of no help due to the fact that he has suppressed his power level far too low for Abo and Kato's strength. Now keep in mind, Tarbo's extremely behind the times as far as understanding that Saiyans can obviously suppress your battle strength. So he has no idea truly how powerful I think Goku and Vegeta actually are. And the fact that he's still relying on his scouter to tell him that information shows you just how far behind the times Tarble is. I mean, keep in mind, this is 2 years after Kid Buu was defeated. So Tarble is technically using technology and using concepts really back for what? The Saiyan Saga? I mean, that's a pretty long time to be kind of out of the loop. Vegeta taunts Tarble for relying on his scouter to check power levels, and as an example, Goku begins to gather ki, as I just said. The battle power reading on Tarble's scouter steadily increases up to millions. It soon breaks the scouter as Goku goes into the Super Saiyan or Super Saiyan transformation, and Tarble is absolutely stunned by this incredible increase of Goku's power. After Goku and Vegeta argue over who should get to fight Frieza's henchmen, Goten and Trunks say that they also want to fight too. Krillin and Gohan said they furthermore enjoy to do so as well, and eventually Master Roshi wants to fight to remember the old days. So now you got all the Z Fighters, the whole crew wanting to get in on the mix to fight two of Frieza's henchmen, which I can't recall the last time it seemed like everybody wanted a piece of Frieza's henchmen so desperately. I mean, even in the revival of F situation, that was more so oh, we have to fight as opposed to we really want to fight. Though it was enjoyable to see the Z Fighters back in action. So Goku thinks it will be unfair if everybody fights the enemies, and he suggests that they select a single representative to fight by drawing lots. So, Goku teleports Vegeta, Gohan, Goten, Trunks, Piccolo, Yamcha, Puar, Krillin, Roshi, Oolong, Videl, Chi-Chi, Bulma, Tarble, and his wife, Gure to Mount Paozu. Goku suggested that each draw a radish, and the person who draws the longest radish will be the representative to fight Frieza's henchmen. So after numerous tries from others, Goten draws out a very long radish, and it seems he will be the one to first fight. This of course makes the Prince of Saiyans Vegeta jealous, and he tells Trunks to pull out an even bigger radish. Now pressured by his father, Trunks pulls out what at first seems like a very short, thin radish, which then turns out to be the longest one. This means that Trunks, Vegeta's son, wins, and he will fight the enemies instead of Goten. Now, proud that his son will fight, Vegeta tells Trunks to avenge quote-unquote Uncle Tarble. He then asks Tarble, whose wife is there as well, and Tarble introduces, obviously, her as his wife to Vegeta's shock, and he actually bows in respect. Now, we all know Vegeta's very respectful in that regards. I've always appreciated and loved that about his character. In fact, that's always been my gripe with Goku. I feel like Goku, as he's gotten older, he's shown a lack of respect in situations where Vegeta obviously knows to show his respect. And I'm going to continue to make that argument because for diehard Goku fans, they continue to refute and deny that Goku doesn't show respect or whatever, but that's the truth. Goku is kind of just oblivious to these etiquette related things, and Vegeta isn't. So I always like seeing that. Anyways, Master Roshi says that the Saiyans tend to pick strange wives, which makes Chi-Chi and Bulma mad, and they both hit Master Roshi for that insult, which I guess Roshi kind of has a point, but at the same time, Saiyans pick strong women. Now, Bulma's not strong as a fighter, but obviously she's one of the smartest and probably not the most intelligent female Earthling, obviously on planet Earth, and Chi-Chi is a very good fighter in her own right, which a lot of people tend to forget as well. Welcome back to the story of Tarble, the new Prince of Saiyans. Don't worry, we're going to get there eventually, but it's a story. You gotta take some time to get there. So as we left off, Trunks, Vegeta's son, was chosen as the representative to fight Frieza's henchmen, whose names are Abo and Kato. And we're getting right back into the mix, guys. Make sure you smash that like button. If you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe and make sure mobile notifications are on so you never miss an upload, as well as check the community tab here on YouTube on this channel, just in case mobile notifications do not go out. So, meanwhile, 2 other spaceships finally arrive on Earth, and we know who this could be. And it contains Frieza's henchmen, Abo and Kato, who look like 2, you know those things you used to get at, I think, at Kmart or Walmart. It was like the really squishy ball with like the different type of little pointy things. I'm not going to go into more detail. Some of you should know what I'm talking about. That's who they remind me of. Anyways, these 2 henchmen were pursuing Tarble, and they arrive at his hotel, and then panic erupts. Goku and others soon return and calm things down. Goku says to Vegeta that if there are 2 of them, they should also be 2, which in Goku's way is saying, hey, we should make this a 2v2 fight. Like, Goku, why couldn't you just say that and make it more simple? Anyways, and he replies to that, and Trunks said, okay, cool, that should be enough. So Goku, going against Vegeta, then tells Goten that he could also fight on his behalf as well. Vegeta gets mad at Goku for letting Goten join Trunks in the battle, but relents and Bulma convinces him to agree. So the fathers have agreed to let their sons, fight side by side against Frieza's henchmen. Tells you a lot about how quote-unquote strong Frieza's henchmen are, and really how weak currently Vegeta's brother Tarble is. So turns out Abo and Kato obviously are remnants of Frieza's army who have taken control of Frieza's planets now that he is gone. So they're obviously in a little bit of a higher role as far as the hierarchy is concerned. More so on the basis that Frieza's just banished, or I should say, has gone away from certain planets, and they have taken control of those planets. So puts them in a very interesting spot. Vegeta actually knows them, and he says they were supposed to rival the Ginyu Force in strength. So that is something very interesting that I don't think a lot of people would know. Tarble says that the 2 have become much stronger, and not even Frieza could beat either of them now. Now, this is coming from Tarble, so we have to take that with a pinch of salt, because Tarble also thought that Goku's power level was extremely low until he realized Goku was suppressing his strength. So Goku gains enthusiasm when he hears that they are only at Frieza's power level, and decides that it is alright for Trunks and Goten to fight them alone. First, Kato and Abo underestimate the strength of the children. Initially, the 2 adversaries get bashed and battered, but soon enough, the 2 decide to get serious, and they each split into 3 people. So it was 2 of Frieza's henchmen, and they've both individually split into 3. So now it's like, what, 6 of Frieza's henchmen is what I'm going to call them now, fighting Goten and Trunks. So Trunks and Goten are soon restricted to their tremendous techniques, as the 6 people, or the 6 fighters, are defending and attacking Goten and Trunks at every possible opportunity. Vegeta advises them to sense their ki and locate the real Abo and Kato rather than using their eyes and their ears, but unfortunately the children cannot do so just yet. Vegeta is irritated that his son Trunks has forgotten the basics, but Bulma says this is because he never taught Trunks how to use those basics. He then says that Trunks lacks motivation, just like her, prompting an argument between Vegeta and his wife. And then Goku says that it is not the time for a marital quarrel. Goku, of all people, saying it is not time to argue with your wife, even though it seems like he's constantly arguing with Chi-Chi about wanting to train, and Chi-Chi's like, no, you need a real job, and XYZ. That's kind of funny. But Gohan offers to help, but the 2 ambitious children refuse help from Gohan. They settle on having Gohan merely tell them where the real Abo and Kato actually are instead. With Gohan's accurate advice, Goten and Trunks drive Abo and Kato to the wall. Now, cornered, Abo and Kato then decide they have only one option, and that's to essentially merge to become even stronger, forming the deadly Aka, which, gotta be honest with you, I did not see that coming. Aka, or the K, however you want to pronounce it, his name is just AKA, in fact, I probably should call him AKA, then begins to relentlessly tear into Goten and Trunks with a slew of aerial attacks, including bouncing them into the sky with a barbaric thrust and grabbing them by their heads while tearing through the skies. AKA spins in a cyclone of deadly precision, tossing Goten and Trunks aside as if they were mere ragdolls. Put on the defensive by AKA's attacks, Goten and Trunks use their own secret weapon, the Fusion Dance. However, it has been so long since they have used it that they fail and become chubby Gotenks, so obviously they're a little bit out of the loop. They eventually succeed on their second try, and Gotenks overwhelms AKA using Yamcha's Wolfang Fist, Tien's volleyball attack, and to finish AKA off, they use the Dynamite Rolling Thunder Punch, going Super Saiyan the moment they punch AKA, propelling him into the lake. And I have to admit, I have a love-hate relationship for Gotenks. I don't like when Gotenks isn't serious because it really is the epitome of what a 9 or 8 or 10-year-old child would act like. But when Gotenks is actually serious and fighting serious, Gotenks is actually very enjoyable to fight because I love the different slew and variation of attacks that they come up with, attacks that they're able to create on their own, attacks that they borrow obviously from the other Z fighters. Gotenks is very unique in that sense, and I love when they actually take things serious. It's similar to Vegito. I love Vegito. I love when Vegito's actually taking things serious and not just being a complete clown the whole time. So anyways, Gotenks has essentially annihilated AKA, but is he done and out of the fight? We'll have to wait and see. Now everyone except for Goku, Vegeta, Piccolo, and Gotenks leaves the battle and decides to continue the banquet. They figure, oh, this is in the bag. Gotenks has got this AKA monster defeated. There's nothing to worry about. Well, suddenly, AKA then rises out of the lake and he is apparently very enraged. He fires his signature Wahaha no Ha technique, yes, that's the name of it, which hits Gotenks and causes the Satan Hotel to collapse. AKA then starts shooting his super, I'm just gonna call it the Wahaha attack, damaging each part of the hotel one after the other. In order to protect his friends, Piccolo deflects each super Wahaha energy bullet with his special beam cannon. Krillin then uses his destructo disc to protect Android 18 and his daughter Marin. Yamcha protects Bulma. Oolong and Puar from the falling rubble are protected by Yamcha's spirit ball, and Yajirobe is also able to save people by slicing the rubble in half with his sword. Master Roshi also protects a group of maids, LOL, from the rubble. Everyone is saving everyone. Yamcha and Krillin change into their traditional turtle school uniforms because they realize they're going to have to get into this battle as well. Goku and Vegeta decide to finish off AKA. While flying towards him, Goku points out and asks, "What's that?" And Vegeta looks away. With Vegeta distracted, Goku takes off towards AKA, and then AKA fires a flaming Wahaha attack, which Goku is easily able to counter with his Kamehameha. He then nails AKA with a single punch. Vegeta later states that it was a dirty trick and tactic by Goku to distract him so Goku could essentially defeat AKA for himself. So, with all that being said, guys, AKA is finally defeated. The battle is finally over. Now, Videl tells her father that the hotel being smashed was essentially punishment for Hercule being big-headed, as usual. Satan agrees and promises to change his ways. Goku and Krillin said that he can make a wish to Shenron to rebuild the hotel, and they agree. The party starts again, and everything is happy go after that. So, with that being said, we can obviously see that Tarble's strength, in comparison to what Abo and Kato were able to demonstrate once they were able to split and fuse and all that stuff, Tarble's actual strength, again, is really not that impressive, despite the fact that obviously Abo and Kato were able to merge and split themselves and gain a little bit of extra power, but still, realistically, Abo and Kato were no match for Goku and or Vegeta. Now, Gotenks was able to put up a good fight, and I'm not sure if Gotenks really could have defeated Abo and Kato just in their Super Saiyan form. Perhaps they should have turned into Super Saiyan 3, but all this kind of overshadows Tarble's strength, which is kind of the point of Tarble's character as a whole. Tarble in the current light is just not in any significant power realm to compete with the others, to compete with Goten, Trunks, and obviously his brother Vegeta, Goku, and even the other Z fighters, and that's the only unfortunate thing about his character. So with that being said, that's a real demonstration of his strength, which is hardly any demonstration at all, because again, he is just not powerful enough to compete with any true or real adversaries. Like I said, Tarble is using technology and relying on technology that at this point in the story is almost more than 10 or 15 years old and out of date. So that just goes to show you how far behind Tarble is, even in the race to becoming more powerful, to becoming stronger as he should be as a Saiyan warrior. And with all that being said, we can actually turn the table to a situation where Tarble would actually not be under the influence of that outdated technology, those outdated concepts, and how things would actually be if Tarble himself was actually training alongside his brother Vegeta from the beginning of the Saiyan saga, proceeding through to the Frieza Saga, Android Saga, so on and so forth. We're going to see exactly how strong Tarble could be if he was alongside his brother and not banished to some remote planet, and the version of Tarble that we actually obviously got to witness here in this story. Tarble, the younger brother of Vegeta, has always been looked at as a weak, insignificant, low-class Saiyan warrior despite his family heritage and who he's connected to. Well, in this story, we're actually going to take you through how things would be in Dragon Ball if Tarble was actually alongside his brother Vegeta from the very beginning of the Saiyan Saga to, I guess, present day. No idea how long it's going to take us to get there, but we will try our best. As always, guys, make sure you smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Make sure to turn on mobile notifications and check the community tab. I do post daily in the community tab. Artwork, memes, updates of videos that are going live, all that good stuff. Without further ado, let's give you guys a quick background on Tarble's techniques and special abilities that are going to be used throughout this story. Of course, Tarble has the basic techniques and abilities as any other Saiyan warrior. He has flight, Ki blast. He also has the Gallic gun, which Vegeta has, and apparently so does Tarble. He has a Brotherhood Gallic gun, a combined energy wave of two fighters using the Gallic gun, which is only really used in the Dokkan Battle series. There's a Royal Family Gallic gun that he has as well. This is used in Dragon Ball Heroes. Of course, he has full power energy wave, super energy wave volley, round UFO attack, Gallic burst, energy booster, explosive wave, and wild set. So he has a pretty cliche array of attacks. I would say his attacks are probably similar to that of actually Tarble's from Universe 6. He has a tail. He has the ability to transform into a Great Ape, but from our knowledge, there has been no confirmed report of Tarble actually transforming into a Great Ape himself. So with all that being said and done, let's tap into the first arc and the first story of where Tarble is actually going to be fighting alongside his brother Vegeta, and this is back during the Saiyan Saga. Now, from what we obviously know of the actual Saiyan Saga that occurred, Raditz comes to Earth to essentially try to figure out what the heck happened to his brother Kakarot, and to eventually wipe out Earth, that whole shibaz. Now, keep in mind, Vegeta, obviously, and Nappa were not on Earth yet, which means Tarble himself is not going to even be introduced until Vegeta and Nappa actually come to Earth. So the Saiyan Saga, at least in the beginning bouts, plays out traditionally as it would. Goku sacrifices himself, he dies, Raditz dies, and Piccolo is left. Now we get the introduction that obviously the Saiyans will be on their way in X amount of time. So the story progresses as usual, only this time Tarble is going to be coming alongside his brother Vegeta and Nappa to planet Earth. So now as we get to the main parts of the Saiyan Saga, we have the Z Fighters, Krillin, Yamcha, Tien Shinhan, Piccolo, and Gohan. They all stay the same and they don't get any additional help. Only this time now they actually have to fight an additional member of this villain array, and that is Tarble. Of course, Nappa, Cyberman are also included as well. So when you throw Tarble into the mix here, because Tarble has actually been training alongside his brother Vegeta in this story, Tarble is proven to be pretty tough. He's not going to be a walkover. He's not quite obviously at his brother's strength. He's not at Nappa's strength, but he's a little bit below that of Nappa's, I would say. And with that being said, now the Z Fighters have an extra adversary to worry about as opposed to just the Cybermen, Nappa, and Vegeta. So this obviously puts them in a very tough and difficult situation. They have no other reinforcements to essentially call on. So once Goku is eventually able to come back to Earth, and we know his battle and his showdown between him and Vegeta, how that plays out, well, maybe it doesn't play out exactly the same way. Piccolo still ends up sacrificing himself for Gohan, so that event plays out normal. But now we have a situation where Goku still ends up fighting Nappa, and Nappa actually tells Tarble to sit on the sidelines. Nappa is underestimating the Saiyan strength and doesn't think Goku is anything impressive, so again the events play out the same way. Goku is eventually able to kill and defeat Nappa. Now that being said, all that's really left on the side of the villains are Vegeta and his brother Tarble. Tarble now has no choice but to join in the fight. And this is where the story and the events go a little bit differently, because as opposed to just going in a one-on-one fight with the Goku fighting Vegeta, now he actually has to deal with Vegeta's brother Tarble as well. But again, the cockiness and the arrogance of the Saiyans, here in this case Vegeta, tells his younger brother to stay on the sidelines. He will fight Goku. He doesn't need his younger brother's help. Now, the fight between Goku and Vegeta plays out as it has in the actual story that we know of. Back and forth, both fighters giving it their all. Eventually, Tarble is growing a little bit restless on the sidelines. He sees that Vegeta's in a little bit of trouble, and he decides to join in on the fray, now turning this one-on-one fight into a 1v2 situation. Now, obviously, Goku is struggling against this. He doesn't think it's fair, but he's not going to complain about it. Vegeta, on the other hand, is extremely annoyed that his brother Tarble has joined in on the fight because of his pride. Again, Vegeta doesn't want to make it seem like he needs help from his younger, weaker brother in order to fight this low-class Saiyan warrior. Vegeta's yelling, cursing his younger brother, telling him to stay aside, you're weak, I don't need your help. And actually Vegeta attacks his brother temporarily, and then Tarble decides to stay down. He's frustrated, he's upset. He's like, brother, why won't you let me help you? I need to help you, just let me help you. And Vegeta's pride will not allow his younger brother to step back into the fight. So at this point, Tarble gets the message. He can see that anytime he tries to interfere and help his brother, it just frustrates his brother, and if anything, it causes more harm than good. Tarble has very low self-esteem despite the fact that he's been with his brother his whole time. He has low self-esteem, so he's feeling like he is causing more harm than good to his brother, and he actually does stay out of this fight. He's sitting on the sidelines, kind of nursing his injuries that he suffered from that attack that Vegeta launched at him. And Goku and Vegeta's battle then gets back on the track of how we know how it plays out. The struggle between Vegeta's Gallic Gun and Goku's Kamehameha Wave. Tarble is extremely terrified witnessing this beam struggle, this beam clash, because he didn't realize how strong Goku actually was. And Goku is able to win out, and again, Tarble's terrified. He thinks, oh crap, my brother's gonna die. No, my brother's going to die. We can't allow this to happen. Why won't you let me help you? And of course, he keeps replaying what Vegeta said. You're weak, you can't help me, stay on the sidelines. So essentially, Tarble is watching his brother get quote-unquote annihilated. He doesn't realize that Vegeta is going to survive by literally an inch of his life. So with that being said, again, the events play out how they would in the traditional story. Krillin is faced with the decision of killing Vegeta and or letting him escape. Again, Goku tells him to let him go. Keep in mind, Tarble is still alive. He's still standing there, and he's like, well, what now? And Krillin does indeed spare Vegeta, and he tells Tarble the same thing. He's like, I don't want to have to fight you. I don't think you're a bad guy. Why are you following your brother around? You don't have to listen to him. I could tell you really didn't want to fight. So like I said, Tarble's character in this story is going to go through a lot of internal struggles. The struggle of wanting to follow his brother, but also at the same time not wanting exactly to be evil and to terrorize and destroy and do all these things that Vegeta and Nappa and Raditz have done throughout their lives as Saiyans. Tarble is going to have this internal struggle for quite some time, which is what's really going to make this story interesting. And despite that struggle, he still follows his brother, and he's still going to train under the leadership and the guide and the mentorship of his brother Vegeta. So again, Krillin spares Vegeta. Tarble is able to take his severely beaten brother. They get in their space pod and they blast off into space, and this is obviously where the events of the Saiyan arc conclude as we go into Planet Namek and the Frieza saga next. So again, Tarble's strength demonstrated a little bit here, but not too much, only for the simple fact that Vegeta and Nappa's cockiness and arrogance prevented Tarble from jumping into the fight. Well, Planet Namek will be entirely different because Nappa is gone, and obviously this is where Vegeta's character is going to go through a little bit of development, and that is going to change the events of how Tarble's actually featured in this next arc, in this next part of the story, and how the events on Planet Namek are going to play out with him being there alongside his brother Vegeta. I've always made the claim that if perhaps Tien Shinhan was on Planet Namek with the other Z Fighters, including maybe Yamcha as well, the Z Fighters would have had a much better chance at defeating everybody on Planet Namek without things getting to the point that they got to. I still think eventually Goku probably would have turned into a Super Saiyan for the simple fact that I think others would have died outside of Krillin. I think Tien Shinhan and Yamcha would have helped battling the henchmen, you know, even battling the Ginyu Force, even Frieza in his first and second stages, but I still believe at some point Frieza probably would have killed them at some extent. I would have been very surprised if Tien and Yamcha would have been able to survive the events of Planet Namek without any serious consequences happening, which would obviously include them losing their lives. So I'm really excited to go into this next part of the story on Planet Namek and see how the events of this saga that we know of it would play out with Tarble actually fighting alongside his brother Vegeta legitimately in this situation, because they're going to have no other options and no other additional help compared to the Saiyan saga, where Nappa was extremely powerful, much more powerful than Tarble. Hence, Tarble really didn't need to fight, and the Saiyans wouldn't have let him fight anyways. That does conclude this part of the story, and Tarble's, what I would call maybe redemption here, to giving his character much more than he's ever been given. Hopefully you guys have been enjoying this story. We arrive on planet Namek, where instead of it being the traditional cast of characters that we know of, Vegeta's brother Tarble is now coming alongside his brother Vegeta to planet Namek, and we're going to see exactly how these events will play out. Guys, just remember to smash the like button and subscribe to this channel if you are new, and make sure to turn on mobile notifications. Check the YouTube community tab page here for this channel, where you guys never miss any uploads, just in case YouTube doesn't send them out, as well as general Dragon Ball posts, memes, art, gifs, all that stuff on there. Without further ado, let's get into part 4 of the story. For some general background information, most events throughout this entire story as a whole, not even in this video, but the other videos as well, are still going to play out similar to how they played out in the actual canon timeline. But like I said, Vegeta's brother Tarble now being there is going to throw a monkey wrench into some events, and certain things aren't going to play out exactly as we know of. But for the most part, the same timeline is going to be in order, but the events, what characters survive, what characters maybe die, all that stuff is what's going to change throughout this story, with now Tarble being introduced. So Vegeta going to planet Namek with his brother, still the same wish, the same ambition, wishing for the Dragon Balls, and that's all going to be very close and similar to that of the actual story. Only this time now he has his brother Tarble for help, and he's actually going to use Tarble in this story, on this planet, in this arc, to actually help him fight whoever he comes across, as opposed to sidelining him like he did during the Saiyan saga. Now keep in mind, while Vegeta was slowly recovering, and once he got back up to full strength, he began sparring with his brother again. Unfortunately for Tarble, Vegeta was taking a little bit of his frustration out on his brother, for the simple fact that Vegeta really considered that he lost to Kakarot, and of course we know how that does to Vegeta's pride, and he had no one else to take it out on. He was just with his brother the whole time, so he took it out on Tarble. So again, this is kind of beating into that eternal struggle that Tarble has, wanting to follow his older brother, but at the same time not wanting to embark in the evil deeds that his brother seems to be embarking and pursuing. So Tarble's character is still extremely torn, following his brother and sometimes wanting to go his own way and no longer follow his brother, but he doesn't know anything else. He's been with his brother since the beginning. He wouldn't even know what to do if he was by himself, which is why he feels stuck in this situation. So throughout this arc in this story on planet Namek, Tarble doesn't really want to fight the Namekians. He sees them as decent, honest people. He doesn't see why they have to fight them, why they even have to kill them in certain situations, like Vegeta obviously has done in this story. Tarble struggles with that. In fact, he can't really kill any of them initially. It's not until Vegeta steps in and says, "I will kill you if you decide not to kill them," and obviously by that guilt alone, Tarble is like, I have no choice. He does eventually end up slaying some innocent Namekians, and this really affects Tarble mentally. He's like, what have I become? What are we doing? Why are we killing these innocent creatures, these innocent beings? They have done nothing to us. And Vegeta's keeping on his path. He's keeping on his same direction. So after Tarble slays his first Namekians, he is extremely torn, extremely upset with himself, upset with his brother, and he wouldn't tell Vegeta that. He just flies away. He flies away. He doesn't know where he's going. He's extremely tearful at this point, and Vegeta's like, I'll just let him go, because Vegeta's still in his quest to retrieve the other Dragon Balls. He figures he'll meet back up with them at some point. He's continuing on with his mission. Goku eventually arrives on planet Namek, and again the events play out as they do in the regular canon story. Goku's absolutely destroying everyone, going through the Ginyu Force, Yaze Blase, right? All those events play out the same. Well, now we get further into the story, and this is where things really kick up. Now we get to the part where Frieza is finally really introduced in a fighting sense, and now we get that combat sequence of Frieza and Vegeta. Only this time, Tarble is also going to be there now. And what's special about this sequence is Tarble actually witnesses his brother not really putting up a fight that he thought he would put up against that of Frieza. So keep in mind, Goku is still recovering from his injuries as we know of, and like I said, Vegeta and Frieza are going at it. Tarble again, watching on the sidelines, still torn from what his brother made him do earlier, but now at this current point in time, he has to be there to defend and back up his brother against this tyrant Frieza, who is now effectively becoming the real adversary, the real antagonist, obviously an enemy for the Z fighters and cast in this story. The events play out the same way as they do in the canon story. Frieza is too much of a match for that of Vegeta, and Vegeta's essentially killed. Now, what plays out differently in this scenario is that instead of, well, nobody else snapping really when Vegeta dies and Goku saying, okay, now it's my turn to fight you, Frieza, Tarble is the one to actually snap. He's like my brother, and despite the fact that Vegeta's made him do terrible things that he never imagined he would do, Vegeta is still his brother at the end of the day. That is still his older brother. They have been with each other since they were small. Tarble has always looked up to his older brother, and watching Vegeta get killed right before his eyes sends Tarble into an absolute rage. In fact, Tarble has his own Super Saiyan moment like Goku had when Krillin was slayed by that of Frieza. The anguish, the rage, the frustration of watching his brother die right before his eyes allows Tarble himself to actually turn into a Super Saiyan, or at least a false Super Saiyan, I should say, only temporarily. He then launches an array of attacks at Frieza, which seems to have Frieza on the ropes. Keep in mind, Frieza is still nowhere near his full power strength yet. So, despite the fact that it looks like Tarble may actually have an advantage here against Frieza, it is short-lived, as Frieza is then eventually able to turn up the notch and essentially humble Tarble, so to speak, and Tarble eventually is going to fall the same way that his brother Vegeta did. Well, maybe not quite. Goku actually comes in at the last minute to save Tarble and spares Tarble. Obviously, Goku has no gripes against Tarble, even still knowing that Tarble was there alongside Vegeta on Earth, and he really didn't join in on the fight like he would have wanted to about his brother, because Vegeta told him during that Saiyan Saga moment to not fight, stay on the sidelines. This is my fight with Kakarot. I don't want you helping. So Goku's aware of Tarble. He knows that's Vegeta's younger brother, and again, he feels like Tarble's kind of in a crappy spot, so he has no real gripes or qualms with Tarble. Goku tells Tarble to back away. I'll handle it from here. You've done well fighting Frieza. It's amazing what you were able to do from watching what just happened occurred, and I wonder how strong you could be. You know, Goku's typical stuff. I really wonder how strong you'll be if you continue to train and you continue to really hone in on your fighting skills. He's essentially giving Tarble kudos, saying you've been able to do what none of us have been able to do to Frieza so far, and obviously that gives Tarble some hope. He's like, wow, this low-class Saiyan warrior that my brother has hated and has talked about and talks about all the time is actually giving me a compliment, something my own brother has really never done for me. So obviously this touches Tarble in a very warm spot, because like I said, Vegeta's never complimented his brother before, so to have this stranger that Vegeta hates compliment Tarble, like I said, this gives him the notion of, wow, maybe this Goku, maybe this Kakarot, I should say, isn't really as bad as I've been believed to think. Maybe he's actually decent. Of course, Tarble, again, is so conflicted with so many emotions. You know, his brother made him kill innocent Namekians, and he watched his brother die. Then he fought Frieza, then he got defeated, thought he was going to die. Then this stranger that his brother hates gives him a compliment and says that, you know, he did better than anyone has so far fighting this dictator, this tyrant Frieza. He is absolutely conflicted with so many emotions right now, but he takes Goku's advice, he steps aside, and he lets Goku jump into the mix to fight Frieza and have that battle that we know of in the moment where eventually Frieza does kill Krillin, and that allows Goku to tap into that rage, that frustration, that anger to turn into a Super Saiyan legitimately. Not the false Super Saiyan that Tarble tapped into earlier in the story, but the actual Super Saiyan transformation itself for the first time in Goku's life. Tarble is able to sense this power along with Gohan as well, and Gohan's like, whoa, who is that? That's got to be my dad. And Tarble is like, what? Is this the power of the legendary Super Saiyan that my brothers always told me about? So of course that whole thing is going on in Tarble's head. Again, even more conflicted with emotions. Goku senses that Tarble and Gohan have not left the battlefield where him and Frieza are, and he yells at Gohan the same way he does in the traditional story. He says, "Go, get out of here before I lose any sense of, sanity I have left." And he tells Gohan to take Tarble along with him as well, and the two Saiyans fly off. And now we come to the battle of Goku and Frieza, and those events actually do play out the same way as they do in the traditional story. So what do we take away from this part of the story here in this Frieza saga with Vegeta's brother Tarble? Well, for one, Tarble was forced to kill innocent Namekians, something he didn't want to do. Two, he had improved a little bit in strength because he was training with his brother Vegeta prior to their arrival on planet Namek, but unfortunately in that process Vegeta also took out a lot of his anger and frustration on Tarble for the fact that Vegeta lost his battle against Goku on planet Earth. Number 3, Tarble watches his brother die for the very first time right before his eyes, and this sends Tarble into a rage. He doesn't quite tap into the legitimate Super Saiyan transformation, but he taps into false Super Saiyan, and up until that point, he was the only fighter on planet Namek that was able to give Frieza the hardest fight that he had to fight prior to Goku obviously coming in and then those events playing out as we know it. So, with that being said, Tarble is still alive. Vegeta, unfortunately, is not. And now we're going to head back to planet Earth with the android and the Cell saga. And this is going to be very interesting because I've always felt like the android and Cell saga it's an enjoyable, actually they're enjoyable arcs. At the same time they can sometimes be convoluted, and that's what a lot of people say in the community. I like the arcs. Gohan and Cell, awesome moment. Gohan's a savage, but as well it's just kind of a lot of just inconsistencies and just running amok, running about, so to speak, in this arc. So I'm going to try to simplify it to the best of my ability. Obviously with Tarble being the main focus of this story, that's where we're going to try to simplify things, and we'll see exactly how the android and Cell sagas will play out with now Tarble being there alongside his brother Vegeta, and of course we know future Trunks will be making his first introduction into this story in the series as well. Now enter the Android Saga. This is the story of Vegeta's brother Tarble joining his brother Vegeta alongside this journey in this Dragon Ball What If story. We left off with the Planet Namek saga, Tarble tapping into a false Super Saiyan after witnessing his brother die at the hands of Frieza. Eventually Goku steps in, gives Tarble a compliment, something Vegeta has never done, and Goku and Frieza's battle plays out the same as it would in the traditional story. So now we get to the Android Saga, and as I said in the last episode, we're going to simplify this to the best of my abilities. I don't want to make it too convoluted or too complex. I think that's a lot of people's only gripes with the Android/Cell saga. Convoluted, so many kind of things running about one another, kind of this intertwined web, so to speak. We're going to simplify it to the best of our ability. Just a reminder, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. Make sure mobile notifications are on if you are subscribed, and check the community tab here on this channel for when I post videos, artwork, memes, gifs, and other stuff. Without further ado, let's get into the Android Saga. So, Android Saga again starts off pretty, traditional as the other stories have. Not too much changes. Only difference is Tarble is now there alongside his brother Vegeta. And with that being said, again, Tarble, he's continuing to get stronger. He's not at his brother's strength, but Vegeta is still continuing to train him. He has nothing else to do, and at the same time, Vegeta is able to try out new techniques on his brother. So, unfortunately, Tarble is kind of used as a training dummy, so to speak. And his only trade-off is he is also getting a little bit stronger, training alongside his older brother Vegeta. That's about the only benefit Tarble really gets from staying around Vegeta. He does have his brother's protection, despite the fact that Vegeta attacked him on Earth during the Saiyan saga only because Tarble was interfering when Vegeta didn't want him to. But still, he has his brother's protection, and he is still gaining some strength at the same time. That's about the only thing Tarble really has to look forward to. But in this Android saga, thoughts keep replaying in Tarble's head. Words keep replaying in his head, and that's what Goku said about him being a decent fighter, and he doesn't necessarily have to obviously follow his brother Vegeta. He can be his own man. He can be his own fighter. He can become a lot stronger than he thinks. He is a lot stronger than he believes. These are things that, again, Vegeta has never complimented Tarble on, and Tarble keeps replaying these things in his head. So again, more conflict, eternal conflict going on in Tarble as he's trying to balance out, do I continue to stay with my brother, or do I maybe do what this other Saiyan, this Kakarot, says, and I try to go my own route? But again, that internal struggle of not knowing where to go, how he would fend for himself, despite the fact that he's a little bit stronger than he believes, it's enough to keep Tarble right at his brother's footsteps. So the events of the Android Saga pretty much play out the same as they do in the traditional story. There's not too many variations. Only difference is Tarble actually witnesses his brother Vegeta get embarrassed by Android 18 and the other things that we know of in this story. Other than that, nothing really changes. Tarble himself doesn't get involved in too much of the fighting until we now get to the point where Cell makes his introduction. Vegeta and Trunks go into the hyperbolic time chamber alongside with Tarble. Now, we know what Trunks thinks of the hyperbolic time chamber. It's so hot, it's so exhausting, all that stuff, right? That remains the same, but now Vegeta's younger brother Tarble is also in there, and if it's overwhelming for Trunks, who at this point is obviously much stronger than Vegeta's younger brother Tarble, imagine how the hyperbolic time chamber is for Tarble. Now obviously we know only 2 people can go in the hyperbolic time chamber at the same time, so what they've essentially done is shifts. First, Vegeta and Trunks go in, and then secondly, Trunks comes back out and Vegeta and Tarble go in. So Tarble's completely overwhelmed by the pressure, the heat, everything of the hyperbolic time chamber, the air. It is so much for Tarble, and Vegeta tells him to suck it up. You are not some sissy low-class warrior, yada yada yada. Despite the fact that he knows how significantly weaker than him Tarble is, he's essentially feeding Tarble lies, telling him to suck it up. You're of royal blood, you can handle this, stop your whining, we have training to do. Now unfortunately, because Tarble is not able to keep up with the hyperbolic time chamber like that of Trunks and Vegeta, Tarble is hardly able to move in there at all, and this frustrates Vegeta so much that again he starts to turn on his younger brother. He starts to kind of beat him up and tell him all these disparaging negative things, and again it is pushing Tarble more and more away from his brother. I would say emotionally, as far as that connection is. Tarble used to admire his brother, used to look up to him, but now since Vegeta's getting more and more fed up with the fact that Tarble is so much weaker than him, now more of that is starting to come out of Vegeta's personality. More of that punishment, more of that mistreatment is starting to affect Tarble, and again because of what Goku said on Planet Namek, Tarble is really starting to consider maybe going off on his own and not essentially being by his brother's side like he has been for his whole life. Nonetheless, Tarble was able to get some benefits out of the hyperbolic time chamber, though nothing truly significant. But again, he is still able to continue on improving his strength little by little, despite the mistreatment and despite all the things he's had to endure with his punishment essentially from his own brother Vegeta. So when we get back to the fighting here, and we know Vegeta had the potential to kill Cell, but of course Vegeta's arrogance and cockiness screwed that whole situation up. In fact, both Goku and Vegeta made mistakes during the Cell Saga. I feel like it's always one or the other that gets more blame. I think they both equally deserve the blame in that arc because they both essentially had the cockiness and the arrogance to say, could defeat him, but not really going to do it. I'd rather do this. Both Goku and Vegeta made the same mistakes in the Cell Saga, which is why I think they both rightfully deserve the blame for how that entire situation turned out that really could have obviously been prevented. So as we get back to the story and the fight between Vegeta and Cell, Trunks is warning Vegeta, warning his father to stop messing around. You have to defeat Cell now. You must do it. Vegeta doing what he did in the initial story, ignoring the advice of his son. Well, now he has his younger brother as well, telling him the same thing. You must listen to Trunks. You must listen to your son. Now, Tarble is not too versed on the whole time travel thing, but obviously everybody understands the family dynamics now, and Trunks is like, brother, listen to your son, listen to him, he's right, he wouldn't be telling you this if it wasn't true. And of course Vegeta's still ignoring everybody, he's not listening to everybody. This is frustrating not only Trunks but Tarble even more so, because now Tarble's patience with his brother is running out. Now that meter is getting filled, he's about to explode. Everything he has had to endure from his brother from the very beginning of their time together as young Saiyans to their time on Earth, planet Namek, and now this situation back on Earth here in the Android Cell Saga, the mistreatment he suffered in the hyperbolic time chamber. Now it has essentially caused Tarble to explode. And this is where the events of the story go a little bit different, because as opposed to how they initially play out, Tarble then goes in to actually attack his brother Vegeta. He sends an attack at Vegeta that does distract Vegeta and hit him. Everybody is like, WTF, what just happened? And some characters, some of the Z fighters, like, you know, Tarble, why did you attack your older brother? You know, why would you do that? He's not the enemy right now. And Tarble just absolutely snapped. He couldn't take it. He couldn't handle it anymore. Everything bottled up to this point, to this moment, and he officially had enough of his brother's arrogance, his brother's cockiness, the mistreatment of others that Vegeta has shown quite, you know, enormously to everyone. And again, because Tarble has been under the brunt of all of that punishment and all of that treatment, he officially snaps. Now keep in mind, Tarble is kind of in a rage-filled state at this point, so his strength is multiplied much higher than it normally would have been if Tarble was fighting under the normal circumstances with a normal mindset. He's completely snapped. He hasn't, you know, turned into a grave ape or anything, but he has essentially done what Vegeta did when Bulma got slapped by Beerus. Tarble's kind of had a very similar moment, so he's only had a very short-term rage boost, so to speak, but it was enough to actually make him stronger than that of his brother Vegeta. Now, for fans watching, this is great because, you know, you were sick of Tarble being so poorly treated by that of Vegeta. It's awesome to see that, but at the same time, you're also frustrated because you're like, this does not help. Cell is still the enemy at the end of the day. All you are doing is weakening one of our fighters against the real adversary Cell. So it's kind of a catch-50. There are people that are happy with Tarble, people that are happy for Tarble snapping and finally not, you know, laying by the side and actually, you know, standing up to his brother Vegeta, as well. At the same time, people are frustrated because it's like, this is not the enemy. You are not helping our case. So that is kind of what happens here with Tarble finally snapping against his brother Vegeta. Eventually, that situation dies down because they have to remember who the real enemy is. Cell pops back into the mix, and the story pretty much plays out traditionally as it does in the regular canon format, as far as Goku sacrificing himself and everything else. Only additional thing that they have is Tarble is there, and him snapping against Vegeta actually sapped a lot of his energy, so he really wasn't much of a help once that moment eventually subsided. In fact, it was as if he wasn't there because he used more energy than he's ever used in his entire life. Last episode, Vegeta's brother Tarble finally stands up to his brother. He snaps, and for a short moment, he's actually stronger than that of Vegeta. Unfortunately, that didn't last too long, and then the events of the story pretty much played out as they normally would. Only this time around, Tarble has finally decided he is no longer going to be following his brother. So in the time skip from the end of the Cell Saga to the Buu Saga, Tarble's been doing his own thing, except he's not with Vegeta, he's with others. That is where this story is going to start. Just a reminder, guys, make sure you smash that like button if you do enjoy this story, or you have been enjoying this story as a series. Also, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Turn on mobile notifications so you never miss an upload. And if your mobile notifications don't work or you don't get them from YouTube, check the community tab here on this channel. I always post videos that go live, usually 15 minutes after they've actually been posted on YouTube. So make sure you check the community tab for posts as far as that's concerned, GIFs, memes, Dragon Ball artwork, all that good stuff. Without further ado, let's get into this story as a time skip occurs and we are now in the Buu Saga. So you've been following this story, you know the common theme I've played up with Tarble, these internal struggles, this conflict of wanting to follow his older brother Vegeta because he has admired his Vegeta, he does love his brother, but at the same time he has been poorly mistreated by his brother. And he snapped in the last story, he snapped in the Cell Saga, and that's officially what put Tarble to where he's at now. Instead of, you know, staying with Vegeta and Bulma at Capsule Corp, Tarble has actually kind of done his own thing. He has a place in the countryside closer to that of, I would say, where Goku and company live. Now, of course, at this current point in time, Goku is still dead, but Tarble has been spending a lot of time with that of Gohan, Goten, and the others. So Gohan has actually been kind of serving as Tarble's trainer, so to speak. And because we know of Gohan's nature, that resonates with Tarble much more than that of obviously his brother Vegeta. He doesn't really talk to Vegeta. In fact, whenever they do talk, they just kind of look at each other and they don't really say much, obviously after what happened several years ago. And you know, Vegeta, he's not going to do anything to Tarble, but again, he's not talking to his brother. He's just not. He doesn't want to talk to him. And Tarble, on the other hand, as well, is at a point in mind where he doesn't feel he has much to say to Vegeta either. Now we're getting a little bit more of a tougher side of Tarble because of him finally standing up for himself. He gained confidence in that moment. He remembered what Goku said. All of that has been going through his head and has helped shape him into the character that he is now several years later. And because he has been training with Gohan and he has steadily been getting stronger, now he has more confidence to feel more sure about himself, and he doesn't truly fear his brother Vegeta like he had been pretty much his whole life. Now, I think I failed to mention, but pretty much everybody could assume in the last story, or the last part of the story, that Tarble did indeed tap into a Super Saiyan for his very first time when he actually snapped against Vegeta. It wasn't the false Super Saiyan thing that he did against Frieza on planet Namek, but he actually tapped into the Super Saiyan transformation once he decided to stand up to his brother Vegeta. So now Tarble again is another Saiyan on Earth that is able to harness and, you know, harbor that power. And he's able to use that now effectively like the other Saiyans are, which would be obviously Vegeta, Gohan, Goten eventually once he's able to tap into that transformation as well. So the events of the Boost Saga are going to play out much differently than you would have initially thought, at least once we get to the main fight. So Gohan, the Great Saiyan Man, that whole shabazz, that all plays out the same. Eventually Goku is able to come back to Earth, and the events of the World Martial Arts Tournament pretty much play out the same, except this time, instead of Vegeta being solely set on trying to, you know, fight Goku and allowing himself to be possessed, this time, instead of fighting Goku, his brother Tarble is the one that is going to be in his way. Again, this is Tarble standing up to his brother. Keep in mind, like I said, they hadn't really been talking in the last several years, but once Tarble is seeing what Vegeta is becoming, what he's turning into, what he's allowing himself to become, Tarble now with this newfound confidence from training with Gohan all these years, being able to really tap into his strength and really get himself out of that category, that class as a low-class Saiyan warrior. Remember, because his fighting skills were so bad initially, that's why he was banished away, and then obviously he was able to grow up fighting side by side, or training side by side I should say, with his brother Vegeta. Now he has that confidence, he has that strength, he has battle IQ. He stands up to his brother Vegeta and he tells him, I'm not going to allow you to terrorize innocent people anymore. I'm not going to allow you to bully and mistreat others like you have done to me my whole entire life. Vegeta allowing himself to be possessed and destroying part of the World Martial Arts arena, the stage, and those innocent civilians that were destroyed by that of Vegeta. This is the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. And Tarble is like, you are no longer going to go about doing things the way you've been doing it your whole life. I'm going to stop you because you have lost all sense of who you are, what our family is, so on and so forth. So now Tarble stepping into a very different light. Vegeta, obviously known as the Prince of Saiyans, Tarble is kind of taking on that role in a different perspective with much more honor and saying, you have effectively allowed yourself to go down the rabbit hole and you haven't come back up from it. I'm going to stop that. I'm going to stop you. I will now fight you for real. And what makes this moment so special is that this is not just a rage moment of essentially Tarble snapping like he did during the Cell Saga in the previous episode. This is Tarble with a conscious mind, and with sheer determination he says he is going to stop his brother Vegeta. And he says he doesn't want to have to kill him, but if it comes to that, then so be it. Because again, Tarble could then just take over the position that Vegeta has had, even though Planet Vegeta is destroyed, and that whole Prince of Saiyans thing that Vegeta has always talked about, it's just really a matter of pride. We know that. Well, Tarble is saying he's going to strip that and take that away from his brother. And he is saying this, like I said, with determination, with confidence, and he is not going to waver. Tarble has officially challenged his brother Vegeta to a one-on-one match. Vegeta laughing, sadistically saying, you know, all this time you haven't spoke to me and this is all you had. This is what you think you're going to be able to do against the real Prince of Saiyans, not some wannabe, not some, you know, whatever. He's just insulting Tarble, saying that he's still low class, that he is still nothing. He would be nothing without Vegeta. All of this, but again, Tarble has now effectively reached that point, especially being away from his brother for several years, where now those insults don't actually affect Tarble. Now he is solely focused on essentially silencing his brother for the pain he has caused him and the pain he has caused others throughout their entire life. Tarble now feels it is his duty, because he didn't stand up to his brother Vegeta for so long. Now he feels like it's his duty to stand up to him and put Vegeta down if necessary, so no others have to suffer under Vegeta's presence and Vegeta's wrath. So instead of getting the battle of Goku and Vegeta that we would have normally gotten in this situation, we instead get the battle of Vegeta and Tarble. Now this is very interesting, because keep in mind, Majin Buu is still out there. He's still alive. Only this time now, Goku can completely focus on Majin Buu, because again, in the events of the normal story, Goku and Vegeta fight, Vegeta knocks Goku out from behind, and then Vegeta goes to essentially fight Majin Buu on that pride thing. Well, now this time, Goku doesn't have to worry about that because he's not getting blindsided by Vegeta. Goku is actually able to fight Majin Buu, and then Vegeta and Tarble are going to be fighting themselves to essentially settle this family quarrel of who should really be the Prince of Saiyans, and both fighters are willing to destroy each other in the process. Tarble's effectively reached that point. He loves his brother still, but he feels like Vegeta's too far gone, and he feels like if Vegeta doesn't want to change now, he's never going to change, and he feels Vegeta's presence and him being alive has caused too much chaos, too much destruction, too much anguish, too much hurt, and everything else, and he feels it would be better to put his brother down than to allow Vegeta to continue on the path that he has continued on for their life. And Vegeta at this point, he feels that Tarble is weak. He doesn't feel like Tarble being around is any real help to anybody. So both of them have their reasons for wanting to put one another down, and that is what's going to set the stage for their battle here in this episode. So as the dust settles in this final battle between really Vegeta and Tarble, and then Goku and Majin Buu is about to commence, we look at Vegeta and Tarble's battle first. That's the most important, obviously, with Tarble is the main focus of this story. Tarble is effectively able to transform into a Super Saiyan 2 at this point. So this is what's going to put him relatively on par with that of his brother Vegeta, who is obviously possessed and is now known as Majin Vegeta. Keep in mind that because Tarble has been training with Gohan, his fighting style mirrors that of Gohan's more so than how he used to fight. Tarble used to fight a lot like his brother Vegeta, but then obviously after the time skip from the Cell Saga to the Buu Saga, Tarble has, like I said, adopted Gohan's fighting styles, even some of Gohan's moves perhaps, and this is what puts him in a much different light from a combat perspective compared to that of what Vegeta was initially used to when he would train against Tarble. It's also the reason why Tarble felt so bad. He knew him and his brother Vegeta had very similar fighting styles. Anything Tarble would try to really do against his brother, Vegeta knew how to scout. Now because Vegeta hasn't, let's say, fought Gohan as an adult or as a teen for a long period of time, Tarble has some new moves, has some new abilities that Vegeta has never actually seen in battle firsthand. So Tarble's going to be a little bit harder to scout out and to counter in their battle compared to if Tarble would have kept the same moveset that he had when he was actually training him alongside his brother Vegeta. So the battle between Tarble and Vegeta is intense. It's ferocious. It's more than people would have initially thought because of how Tarble's character has been for most of this story going all the way back to episode 1. It wasn't until he snapped in the Cell Saga that people really got to witness his strength. Well, really, technically Planet Namek, when he turned into a false Super Saiyan against Frieza, witnessing his brother die. Now then you go to the Cell Saga when he obviously snaps against his brother Vegeta for everything that Vegeta's done to him, and now he is completely set, determined, focused on doing what needs to be done, and if that means putting his brother down, that means that's what he's going to do. So like I said, the battle is intense. Both fighters are going back and forth, and like I said, Tarble's a little bit harder to fight for Vegeta because he has adopted Gohan's fighting style and incorporated some new techniques of his own. So Tarble's kind of a bag of all tricks, so to speak, and it's harder for Vegeta to scout him out and to counter him. On the other hand, though, for Tarble, he knows everything Vegeta's going to do. Despite the fact that Vegeta's gotten stronger over the years, the time skip, Tarble pretty much knows Vegeta's fighting style in and out, and this is what allows him to be much closer in their battle, and this allows him to have a much more distinct advantage compared to even Goku fighting Vegeta, because unlike Goku, Tarble, like I said, has grown up fighting with his brother since he was very small. Goku didn't start fighting Vegeta until they were both full-grown adults. As opposed to Tarble, he essentially has an extra 20 years of that experience, 15 to 20 years of experience and knowledge of his older brother's fighting style, and he's able to use this to his advantage in their battle. And as this is going back and forth, Vegeta's obviously growing more irate, more angry that his brother has turned into what he considers a Kakarot clone, so to speak. That is kind of how Vegeta's looking at Tarble. So if you haven't picked up, Vegeta in this story, and keep in mind I love Vegeta, I love him as much as Goku, Vegeta in this story is a little bit more evil because of that relationship with his brother Tarble. Now normally under certain circumstances, Vegeta felt like he always had to look out for his brother, right? He felt like he always had to take care of Tarble. He didn't like that he was a babysitter, but that was his role. That's what he had to do. Tarble had nowhere else to go, and he did feel responsible. But because Tarble was so weak, this is what really drove Vegeta to be where he's at today. It's not simply because he was his younger brother. If Tarble was actually able to fight alongside Vegeta, I would say strength for strength from the very earlier stages, and if Tarble was able to stand up for himself and have more confidence, their relationship would be entirely different. But because Vegeta viewed Tarble as someone that didn't stand up for himself, he viewed him as a Saiyan that was so full of self-pity, so full of self-doubt, and all these negative qualities that essentially demeaned what it meant to be a Saiyan, let alone a Saiyan from royal blood. This is what drove Vegeta to the point where now he has effectively looked at his brother as nothing but dead weight. And like I said, if Tarble was stronger and if he was an entirely different Saiyan mentally, let's say if Tarble had the mindset of Raditz or someone else, their relationship would have been great. But because Tarble was the complete opposite, and again he shared more characteristics of that of quote-unquote Kakarot, this is what really pushed Vegeta away from his brother, and that's essentially what's made him evil in the story. Not that he inherently was evil, but because he was so frustrated with his brother's personality, his lack of fighting prowess, and all that. It built up, and that is why there is this disconnection. That is why things have gotten to this point now where Vegeta and Tarble are fighting. That's Vegeta's side of it, and I just explained Tarble's side a couple minutes ago. So as the battle rages on, there's going to be something very special I actually want you guys to do in this story to really feel like you have some immersion as well in regards to how things are going to play out. I don't want to necessarily say who's going to win this battle because I'm sure there are people on both sides. So in the comment section below, I want you guys to say, based off of all the knowledge, based off of everything I provided in this story, who do you think should and would win this battle between Vegeta and Tarble? Would you still give it to Vegeta based off of whatever evidence or whatever supporting facts you want to provide? Or would you actually say Tarble should and would win in this situation? It was very hard for me to decide who should actually win this battle because I feel myself rooting kind of for both guys. I feel myself rooting for Tarble as the underdog because we know in reality he's so weak, but then I also feel myself rooting for Vegeta because at the same time he just wanted his brother to be stronger, and Tarble really never got to that point until it was effectively too late, and he had already passed up on trying to save Tarble and trying to look out after Tarble. So I feel myself kind of torn in between who should win. So for this story and the conclusion of this story in the comment section below, I want you guys to tell me who you think should win and why. And then of course on the other side of the coin we still have the Goku and Majin Buu fight, which you can have play out however you want to as well, because again I don't want it to be favoritism. I think it would have been cool to see Goku actually defeat Majin Buu in his Super Saiyan 3 transformation if he was able to keep up that power, because we know obviously once Majin Buu was able to go through those different transformations of Super and then eventually Kid, he was much stronger. And Super Saiyan 3 without the help of Hercule and the Earthling's power with the Spirit Bomb wasn't going to be enough. But prior to Majin Buu getting to the point where he turns into Kid Buu, perhaps a Super Saiyan 3 Goku could have defeated him. That's still a debate going on today. Some people say yes, he could have defeated him. Some say no. Goku says no, and then other people are like, well, he was just saying that, he didn't mean it. it's the only thing about the Buu saga that is kind of up in the air, whether or not he had enough strength to defeat Majin Buu if he were to take that fight seriously and do it when he needed to have it done. So comment section below, you guys can feel free to let me know who you thought would have won between Goku and Majin Buu. Goku Super Saiyan 3 against Majin Buu, but most importantly, who would win? A Majin Vegeta or a Super Saiyan 2 Tarble? Would Tarble's strength be enough? Would his new techniques and his adjusted fighting style be enough to give him the edge over Vegeta? Or would he still lack that pure aggression that Vegeta has always had as a fighter, and would that give Vegeta the edge to win at the end of this story?